Hello everyone, first of all, yes, if you hear that whirring noise, that is the sound of my fan. It is still very fucking hot in the UK. Anyway, we have an episode of Music of the Week to get through. We have a total of 6 albums, so I don't think we should waste any more time. Let's get through them. We begin with The Hives and their newest album, The Death of Randy Fitzsimmons. This is The Hives' first album in 11 years and my first full Hives album. They're a band I've known about since the mid-2000s. I just never really bothered to listen to them because back when I was a teen that wasn't really a thing I bothered doing. But for my first full album, this gets the lowest grade of the episode, but considering that's a B+, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I really enjoyed a lot of elements of this. I thought it was a very fun and snarky bit of punk. It's what the band are known for. They're known for their charisma and their tongue-in-cheek style. Howlin' Per Almquist is still an incredible singer. The guitar work is really, really good too. I like a lot of the instrumentation. It's got that short, like, punchy stuff to it. It's a bit repetitive and derivative. I could say that about most of the album, to be fair, but that's kind of the point. It just works. I like the political lean of corruption and greed in the lyrics. My cat's here too, by the way. I think the production is really, really great as well. It's kept simple and very like organic for the most part. Not overly processed, and I think that helps it. And structurally wise, maybe a little bit short. I did want a couple of songs to be a bit longer and a bit fleshed out and maybe less repeaty. But for what we got, for a band who I've heard only good things about, and considering this is my first album by them, I think they knocked it out of the park, and I'm really looking forward to the next one. I just hope it doesn't take another 11 years. So, yeah, solid shit here. Next we have Jerome's Dream and their new album, The Grey In Between. Now, this is a band that's been around since the late 90s, but they did split up in, I want to say, around 2010. It was somewhere around that time. They reformed a few years later. They dropped their last album back in 2019. This one actually came out back in May as well. They're sort of a post-hardcore slash hardcore punk vibe. I forgot to mention that the Hives have a more garage, rocky, punky vibe. Giving a Jerome's Dreams album an A. I really liked a lot of the elements of it. It's not just like a heavy album for the sake of being a heavy album, although the fact that it is heavy does help it a lot. It's got some really good production on it, and I know there's a producer who's worked on this that's done 2 other banger albums this year, but I can't remember his name, but I will put that on the screen right now. But whoever did it, yeah, no, they've had like a fucking like triple threat in terms of albums, because there was also Loma Prieta's album and Agriculture's album, so yeah, they did another fucking banger. This was before those two came out, I think. Really liked it though. Solid instrumentation, really love how heavy and crunchy it was. I love the abrasiveness and the rawness of the production. The performances are phenomenal as well. There is solid lyricism about misery, essentially, as a central theme, and a bit of anxiety, but told in a fittingly bleak way. There's no false optimism, and I appreciate how authentic it is as a result. And structurally wise, it doesn't suffer either. It's got a good, decent length to it. It's got some really, really impactful songs that flow nicely from one to the next. It's got a necessary amount of short ones that build into bigger ones, and it just does a whole lot with the structure. It's a slightly less refined version of Jesus Peace's new album, but yeah, that's not a bad comparison, because Jesus Peace ruled. This album really rules. Also, 2 bands who have names that begin with a J. You don't really get that a lot in music. You don't get a lot of artists whose names start with J, except for Bieber and Timberlake, or the one that did You're Beautiful, James Blunt. But people actually like James Blunt because his Twitter game's funny, and Justin Timberlake is a pretty cool dude, so fuck Bieber, I guess. But you're going off on a rant. This one's really great, so yeah, go check this one out too if you need some really good, sort of sludgy, hardcore punky shit. Next is another band that's been around for a while. This is Lucero. Their new album Should Have Learned By Now. It came out back in February. They're sort of alt-country slash country punk bands. And I don't remember which album this is. I know it's more than 10. I know they've got more than 10. And only 3 of their albums actually have their own Wikipedia pages. Giving this one a B+ as well, though. I thought it was just a really good bit of storytelling more than anything else. I love the lyricism quite a lot. There is good themes of just like, well, the main theme is, according to the band, is drinking and the reasons why we do it. But there is themes of like drinking in celebration, drinking out of a broken heart, drinking in celebration of love and selfishness, and yeah, it's really handled well in terms of its tone. I think the production keeps things a little bit too clean. I think the structuring doesn't go to too many places, but the performances are really interesting. And I like a lot of the instrumentation. I do wish there were a bit more acoustic guitar work, but I like the electric work quite a bit. I wish there were a bit more organ work, because I think there's organ on this album, but what we do get is quite nice. It is a very simplified album with more of a focus on the country than the punk, but that's not really a detriment to it, and it's still a very solid bit of this particular genre. So if you need something like that, like cowpunk but less aggressive, I can recommend giving this one a go. It's a very kind and sort of warming album in a weird way. So if you just need that, then give this one a spin. Next is Melinda with her first full album, It's All True. Now, Melinda is a pop singer, primarily known for her work in pop, and stage actress. I mostly know her for her work on YouTube because about 5 years ago, not 65 years ago, I found her like translation fails things where she did like covers of songs but with put through Google Translate, and she's a phenomenal singer. I'm giving this one also a B+. I thought it was a really good bit of pop, and I loved it when the Celtic elements were worked in. I wish that were done more because Melinda is like very proud of. I think she has Irish heritage, and she's been to the coast of Ireland many, many times. I just wish that those elements were more prominent because when it's a standard pop album, it's really good. When it works in the Celtic stuff, like the violins and the flutes and shit like that, it is amazing. When it works in the weird electronic pop stuff, it doesn't work as well with the other stuff, and I think that's because of an album we covered last week, the Front Bottom's new album. I think it sort of had the same problems that, where if it focused on the more interesting folky elements, turning this into essentially a folk pop album, it would have been great. But that aside, I can excuse quite a lot of it. It was released on Melinda's own record label, so I can only assume she produced it. So that might have been her choice, but either way, the production overall is really good. Feels like it's got this very vibrant vibe to it. The lyrics are fantastic as well, covering things like loss and queer love, because she herself realised she was bisexual about a year ago and came out as bisexual around Pride Month that year, and I like how much of this album is influenced by that, but it's not like the main thing. However, if you are someone who identifies as queer, I do not, being a straight white man, sadly, it is an album that can really warm your heart. In terms of structure, it's really good too. None of the songs drag. And Melinda's central performance as well is fucking phenomenal, so just go check it out for that alone. She puts in absolute tour de force on this one. This is just a really good bit of pop that I do wish went in more in its innovative ideas, but what we get is still some really good pop. Next we have one-time Jake Award Album of the Year winners in 2021, To Kill Achilles, with their new album Recovery, and I'm so glad that they released a new album so soon after their last one, considering that the gap between their last two full-length studio albums was 8 years. I'm so glad we didn't have to wait until 2029 to get this one. I'm giving this one to pretty much no one's fucking shock, because I love To Kill Achilles. I'm giving this one an A+ as well. I will admit, right at the gate, it's not as heavy as Something to Remember Me By was. I will admit that. These are a post-hardcore sort of emo band with slight metalcore tinges, but there's less metalcore in this one. More of post-hardcore emo feel. And speaking of feel, the band still fucking captured that wonderfully, especially the lead singer Mark Steppe, who puts in another incredible performance on the vocals. I love his naturally raspy voice, and I like that his Scottish accent doesn't interfere too much with it, but it actually adds to the authenticity of the album. And the album is ultimately about the theme of recovery, recovering from trauma, from addiction. I mean, there's a song on here titled Blue, which I think is about the loss of a child. I mean, fucking hell. It's a very realistic album that gives vibes of, say, Spanish Love Song with Brave Faces Everyone. By the way, I can't wait for the new Spanish Love Songs album. Is that out tomorrow? Let me check really quick. Wrong thing. It's... that's next weekend, I think. Is it? Yeah, it's next weekend. Fiddles. Oh well. But yeah, no, this has that sort of vibe, but like that, like Brave Faces Everyone, sort of has the, yeah, it's fucked, but it doesn't have to be fucked, and we're going to face it together sort of feel, and there's a very optimistic light to the lyrics. Like, the last line on the album is one of my favourite lyrics possibly ever, which is, "And if my life's an oil painting, I will learn to love all the scratches on my canvas." I mean, that is incredible writing. The lyricism of this thing is incredible, telling so many great stories with the central theme of grief and loss and recovery and addiction. The performance is great, I already went over those. Instrumentation is really good too. I like that it has a lighter feel, even slightly more of a pop vibe in some cases, but that does not hurt the album at all. It just has this really nice element that the band didn't really try before, and I'm glad that they experimented a little bit, but I'm glad that they didn't completely just switch it around and alienate the fan base, which really fucking helps. The production is phenomenal as well. I could not find out who did it. It was released on the Rising Empire, that's all I know, so whoever they got did a great job. And structurally wise as well, it's fantastic. Really, really good songs. Shorter, heavy ones even still have like a really good lyrical impact, which I do like. And the long ones feel more epic and really well built up. Just really good placement of songs, solid flow. And you never really know what you're going to get because it doesn't stay in one place for too long, which is a benefit that the band has, and I'm glad that they exploit it to its fullest. So yeah, absolutely, go and listen to this one. Gets the highest grade I can give it with the A+, absolutely, and fucking earns it. And finally, speaking of Urne, we have a band called Urne, spelled U-R-N-E, with their second album, Feast on Sorrow. I caught their first album called There's Something and the Serpent, so I will put that on screen. I quite like that one. I think I gave that one an A+, and it wasn't on my top 30 of that year. I'm giving this one an A, and it could be in my top 30 of this year. The weird thing is, right, I think it's because this year I've been listening back to albums more pretty much since January, listening back to albums I heard over the weekend, and scrutinizing them a little bit more, and even though I'm giving this one a slightly lower grade than I gave their debut, I think I like this one more with its A grade. It's interesting where it goes. It's got some great instrumentation. It's still got that like sludgy, heavy metal vibe, which I think absolutely is a great fit. Fits them super well. The lyrics are kind of sparse. I really couldn't find anything much like with their last album. I think the main theme is just going to Metallum in a conflict. That fucking helps. You know, Metallum doesn't even have any lyrics on its own page, and it's usually good for that. There's not even lyrics on the band's Bandcamp page, which is weird. But you know, I think there's some good themes. I just wish I could understand them a little bit better. However, performance-wise, phenomenal work. The lead singer and bassist does an absolutely incredible job. Production-wise, clean as hell, but very organic, not overly polished in any of its areas. Knows exactly what it's doing. Very smart, very dense, very technical and textured. And structurally-wise, really good too. About as long as the last one. About 8 songs and about 50 minutes. God, 50 songs in 8 minutes. Could you fucking imagine that nightmare of an album? I hope that exists, because I want to meet the Mad Bastards who thought that would be a good idea, if that is real. But this is really good shit. And they're a really good band. They're definitely one of the best like new UK bands in a while, up there with like the Raven Age, I would say, and even though they're a little bit older than those other two, While She Sleeps as well, I put in that list. So yeah, no, go and check out A Feast on Sorrow by Urne. Go and check out Urne in general. They're a really good band, and they've got a very unique sound, so worth a spin this. And that'll about do it for another 6 albums. I will do the ranking system now so I don't forget like a bloody fool. We'll go with Lucero with Should Have Learned By Now, The Highs with The Death of Randy Fitzsimmons, Melinda with It's All True, Urne with A Feast on Sorrow, Jerome's Dream with The Grey In Between, and To Kill or Kill It with Recovery. But as always, go and listen to all these albums. They were all really fucking good albums. They all have some really good strong points, and formulate your own opinions. Let me know what you thought about them. And that's really all I have. I should self-promote. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing another reaction. I have a couple of ideas for a song I can react to, but I'm not really sure which one it's going to be. But you'll find out whichever one I do. And also tomorrow night, The Go Home Show, PBW vs AVW for Violent Delights. That reminds me, I need to add to that massive chunks from the past week's episodes. Because there's a pretty long gap of silence because I had to talk to my mum about something on one of those, and I wasn't there. And the match was long enough already, so Christ alive. Anyway, that's really all I have to really say or do. Can't really think of much else. See you tomorrow night. Well, just see you tomorrow in general. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.